Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. Well, good afternoon, everyone. So happy to be here today. And thank you to Ranjan and Jennifer and Kevin for inviting me, for organizing this. I appreciate all of your time and attention today. So building a brighter future together, I feel like we are on the same page about building a better future together. If you are part of Livable Arlington, I know you already have this goal in mind. And again, thank you so much for all the work that you do in that direction. Um, First of all, I want to introduce our partnership between my company and myself and Livable Arlington. Of course, we're going to be talking today about rooftop solar and how it benefits you, the environment, the world, and how I guess everybody benefits from it. But the partnership is if you decide to go solar and after we install your solar panels, we actually donate $1,000 to Livable Arlington Community Fund. And Ranjan and Kevin are going to cover what that fund is going to do, what plans they have, but I'm sure they're going to do really amazing things with additional money that they get. They're already doing lots of work in Arlington, actually in the country. They're very, you guys are very famous in the country too, because I've seen Ranjana in some national TV shows where you talk about your work. Again, it's very important work that you all do. But again, you're going to talk about that at the very end. So before we start, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. So for those of you who don't know me, this is why I'm doing this. So this is just a couple of headlines in the past several months, in the past year. Every month, every year we break some kind of record, whether it's the hottest summer, whether it's the more severe hurricanes, whether it's some freeze in Texas that we had here. But that's really why I got in this industry. So for me, it started about 17 years ago when I was in college, and I was studying business and environmental studies. And when I learned that there's climate change, that how the science of it, I could not unlearn it. So finding a way to live sustainably myself has become my passion, my obsession. After college, I started my career in corporate finance, but that was my day job. My, I guess, second job was to research. I did so much research about what I can do, again, in my own family and then in my circle of influence, my friends and family. And again, finding the best chemical-free products, how to eat. I gave up meat completely 7 years ago. Of course, compost and recycling. Again, the best products in terms of no chemicals, the least effect on the environment, and all those things. So I've done it for many, many years, but I still felt that there's something more that I want to do, that I need to do, because all the changes that I've made more focused on my own family, again, on my small circle of influence. I want to do more. And at that time, I left my job and I was a stay-at-home mom for a while. And when it was time to go back to the working world, I had no idea what I was going to do. I knew I did not want to go back to finance, but I wanted to follow my passion for the environment. But again, I had no idea how it's going to look like. And I remember at that time, during lots of soul searching, one of my friends told me, just open your eyes, open your heart, and see what comes your way. It might be something completely you don't expect, like maybe selling electric cars. And I remember when I heard that, I was surprised and a little terrified because, like, oh my gosh, I've never really sold anything. I don't know how to sell anything, and I don't really want to. But I liked the idea of electric cars, and I remember thinking about that, like, oh my gosh, I wonder what's gonna come my way. And I guess the universe heard me, and instead of electric cars, I got into solar sales. And it turned out to be not exactly what I was imagined. It's really more about education and And that's what I really enjoy about this, because I get to educate people and just explain how it works and see if that's a good fit. So since that time, again, that was about 5.5 years ago when I was talking to that friend. I started my career in Solar City and then Tesla, and then worked in some other large companies and gained a lot of knowledge in the industry. Just a brief bio about myself. So what I do now, I'm an independent solar consultant. So I partner up with some best companies in the industry, and I follow solutions to whether it's families or companies. So I do residential installations and commercial installations as well. I do have you as a homeowner in my heart, and I want to find the best solution for you. I work in about 19 states for residential, and then for commercial projects work in 48 states. So if you're looking for a solar solution for your home, again, I'm going to show you a map of the states that we're in. Blue states, they are established. The yellow ones are new ones that we opened this year, and we're going to have another 10 states opened by the end of the year. But if you have a business, if you own small or medium business, you're welcome to inquire about that as well. We'll see if we can help you with that. This is just a snapshot of some of my customers. Again, I have about 150 residential customers here in Texas and Pennsylvania and Arizona. A lot of times people get hesitant and kind of sometimes maybe have questions at the first, but once they have solar, I don't have anybody who ever regretted that decision. So I have happy customers. But here is my own customers. This is my own solar system that we installed about 5 years ago. And these are my kids. That's pretty much why I'm doing this. I do want for my kids to have a livable planet. I really want all of our kids to have a livable planet. And again, this is the step in that direction. And I'm just going to share some of their masterpieces from that time that we got when we installed our solar panels. So the first one from my son, he was 6 at that time. I have a dream. My dream is to stop fighting and stop oil leaks and stop bad stuff that hurt the earth and stop car accidents and have solar cars. So even at 6 years old, he knows that fighting and oil leaks and bad stuff that hurts the earth, they're all connected. And then the second one from my daughter, Sophia, she wrote, when I want to be a president, I want, okay, I'm kind of have everyone to have solar power. And okay, this, I'm getting it covered a little bit, sorry. I want everyone to have solar power and everyone be nice to each other. And then the third one is a picture by my youngest daughter, Mila, when she was about, I think she was probably 4 or 5 at that time, a happy home with solar panels. So we got them all indoctrinated. We talk a lot about solar panels in our family. Okay. So the more I work in the solar industry, the more I realize that it is really the most important decision that anybody can make for their own family, for their own home in terms of fighting climate change. If you're familiar with this resource, if not, again, I highly recommend it. It's called Drawdown Project. It's a project by Paul Hawkins. Has anybody heard of this, Drawdown? I know this is the kind of crowd that probably would know about this. I cannot see the chat, but if you do know about this, this is really, really cool resource. It's actually what it is. It's actually a research project, research book by a group of scientists that came up with about 80 solutions that, if they implemented today, can keep the global warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius. That's the first scenario. And then at 2 degrees Celsius, that's the second scenario. So all of these solutions are achievable now with current technology, so we don't need to invent anymore. We already have all the resources to combat climate change. So, and there is a, okay, yes, thank you, yes. There is a book also by Paul Hawkins and his team. If we look at the top list of his solutions that his team came up with, this is the top 15, I think. We see here the number 8 is distributed solar photovoltaics, which is rooftop solar. Number 2 is utility scale solar photovoltaics. That's again, these are large solar farms. The kind of that you and I cannot really do much about, but the ones that utility come up with. But the number 8, as I said, distributed solar photovoltaics, that's the kind of solar panels that we can install on our roofs. So as an individual, what we can do in our own home is one of the top solutions for climate change. Again, it's a large research project, and it's proved that if you see number 4, plant-rich diet, so going vegan or vegetarian and putting solar on your roof, are 2 of the most important things that anybody can do to fight climate change. Okay, now let's look at another resource. Of course, everybody is familiar with the United Nations, and they have those top 17 UN goals. They have to be implemented in the next 20 to 30 years in order pretty much for our civilization to survive. These are all really, really important goals, but there is one factor that impacts achieving all of these goals. So next slide, I put that factor. And number 1 driver is low cost, clean, abundant, distributed, accessible, renewable energy. Again, that's solar, that's wind, that's hydro. I'm going to go back to the previous slide. So if we take any goal here, we would see that we cannot achieve reduction in or elimination of poverty without access to clean, renewable electricity. We cannot achieve no hunger in the world, again, without having access to clean energy. There is no equality, there is no equal healthcare without, again, having access to clean, renewable energy. And as we can see now, there is no peace in the world without access to clean, renewable energy. So as you can see, going solar is one of the most important thing that anybody can do for their own family and for the world to fight climate change and achieve all these other very important goals for the world. When I got into solar industry, I thought that that's pretty much all I'm going to be talking about to people. But my biggest disappointment has been that I really don't get to talk about that, because most people that go solar, unfortunately, they don't really know much about the environment. They don't know much about the climate crisis, about any of these things. And the most important reason why people go solar is because the financial reasons and the security reasons. That's what we're going to talk in the second part of this, because again, it's important, environment and all these things, but when people decide to go solar, first of all, they look, okay, how it's going to affect them financially. So let's take a look here. This is a typical electric bill of somebody or one of my customers here in Texas. So there are 2 parts to it. Again, you probably don't look at electric bills every day. So let me break it down for you. And again, it can look different for depending on what state you're in, what utility you're in. But again, overall, in every one of them, there are two parts. First is the energy part. So that's the first one. So what energy part is the cost of extracting the energy from the ground. Again, most of it comes from the ground right now, and burning those fuels to create electricity. So that's the first cost. The second one is delivery charges. That's the cost of transporting that electricity it's being produced to where it's being used in our homes. So let's take a look to what's happening right now with both of those things, because the reason why people go solar, because there are some problems in both of those spheres. So here is the breakdown of how we currently getting electricity in the country. So 62% comes from fossil fuels, mostly it's gas, coal, there's a little bit of oil there, then nuclear, almost 20%, and all the renewables combined are about 18%, with solar being about 2.5%, but again, that's 2 years ago, so it's about 3 to 4% right currently. There's no enough information to put this graph more updated. But as we can see that most of our electricity comes from fossil fuels still. The way we've been extracting those sources of energy, it's over 100 years old. So we're doing the same thing now that we did 100 years ago. Of course, the cheapest resources are already gone. So that's why now a lot of those companies are going into the cities like Arlington. That's why they're fracking, because again, all the other sources where they can just cheaply drill are gone. And then that's why they're going into the national preserves. That's why they have to go into the oceans to drill more and more gas or oil or coal. So the cost of extracting those sources of energy is going higher and higher and higher. I found this graphics, and it's really so true. 50, 60 years ago, we needed a whole room of computers in order to get the same information that we can get from our phones. So we made a lot of progress in the past 50, 60 years. But the way we get energy is still the same. We drilled, we used rigs 50, 60 years ago, even 100 years ago, we're still using them. So it's a highly, highly inefficient technology that, again, you probably know way more than me what are all the dangers of the current technology that's being used by the fossil fuel industry. So the costs, their financial costs are going up. Of course, the cost to the environment and to the health of the people are going up. So going back to our bill, so this is going up again because the way we're extracting is inefficient, is outdated, and it's getting harder and harder and more expensive to drill. How about the second part? Let's look at the second part, the delivery part. It actually has the same problems too. So this is the kind of a scheme of our current grid. So this is where we generate electricity right here, and then through a system of lines and substations, we're getting it to the end consumer. And it can be miles, hundreds of miles between where it's being produced and where it's being used. And this kind of system is over 100 years old. I also found the first prototype of a grid, which was in 1882, which is 140 years old. It's actually, our current grid is built exactly on this model. It's Thomas Edison's first grid prototype in New York, where the electricity is being produced in one place, then it moves through the pole and goes to light that first electric bulb. And so we are using a technology of 140 years old, and it's pretty much has not changed. It's pretty much in the same scenario. So we're digging somewhere, then we're transporting, burning again hundreds of miles away, then we're transporting to our homes another hundreds of miles away. So again, this is very, very outdated technology. It's also getting more and more expensive to maintain it because again, a lot of the grid was built 50, 60, 80, 100 years ago, and it's getting more and more expensive. And of course, we have more and more people that move to the country, move especially here in Texas. So we need to build more and more of this infrastructure, and all the expense goes to the end consumer, to us. And then, okay, great, yes. And then another resource that I wonder if anybody has seen this movie. It's called Power Trip by Jonathan Scott, one of the Property Brothers. Has anybody seen this movie? I don't see everybody's faces here. But if you have not seen this movie, I would highly, highly recommend it. And the kind of the gist of the movie is that he installed solar panels on his own home, and he realized how great solar is. And he was started wondering, why isn't everybody having solar on their own roofs? And he did this documentary of his kind of study of his research, what's going on. And he realized that it's a fight of electric companies, of utility companies. It's like a struggle of power. This system of producing and delivering electricity is very, very old, and we're just used to that's how it's done. There are these big corporations, big companies that burn coal, burn gas, and then produce electricity and deliver it to us. Again, they are the owners. We don't have any control. They can charge us as much as they want. Whatever cost they have, they're gonna push it to us. They have to make profits too, because those companies, we talk about them as utilities, right? And it sounds like they should have our interest in mind because they are utilities, but in reality and he talks a lot about that in that movie, that they are actually for-profit corporations, and their main goal is to satisfy their shareholders. So they need to increase profit. And that's why last year we had this disaster here in Texas, because again, winterizing the equipment that costs that a lot of money is not in their best interest. They need to sell the energy as cheap, as expensive as possible, and then minimize the cost down as low as possible so they can increase the profit. Again, the interest of the end consumers is not in the mind, because again, they are for-profit organizations. So there is this struggle of power. Those big monopolies, they realize that solar threatens them. Solar is trying to take their power away, because when a person has their own kind of energy production on the roof, they are not as dependent on them anymore. They're not buying as much power from them anymore. They're the owners of their power. And so that's why they're really trying to put all kinds of sticks in the wheels and trying to come up with all kinds of laws to prevent solar from really developing to the full. Again, if you have not seen this movie, I can highly, highly recommend that. Okay. So that's what they're trying to avoid. They're trying to avoid this decentralized power generation. And that's the grid of the future, where every home, every business has their own electricity source, and they create those what we call microgrids, where those local energy sources can talk to each other and share electricity among each other. And of course, there are backups, which is like more centralized, as you see here, there are solar farms, there are wind farms. So of course there is a backup if something happens. So this kind of decentralized grid is extremely resilient and sustainable because there is no one point of failure. Like again, we experienced here in Texas last year when kind of one plant stops, okay, we all stuck with no power. Here, if there is the problem with one solar system, again, we can supply to that home through other sources. So this decentralized system, again, is the grid of the future, and it creates a lot of security and a lot of resiliency to us, again, going forward. And that's what they're trying, fortunately, to prevent. So as consumers, how do we experience, again, the fight between monopolies, and how do we experience all the inefficiency that they have in their system? And we see that as price increases. I've been in solar, again, over 5 years, and I've looked at probably thousands of bills over this time, and I can see the difference from now and 5 years ago. Prices here, like Texas say, oh, we have very cheap energy here. The prices that Texans pay now are probably doubled in the past 5 years. The prices that I've seen 5 years ago, nowhere. They're nowhere to be found. They increase sometimes 50, 60, 70, 100% compared to 5 years ago. Again, like here, this is just, again, some headlines just for the past several months all over the country, not just Texas, everywhere. It's happening everywhere. Northeast, Pennsylvania, Florida, all those utilities are raising prices because of the things that we talked about, because the energy cost is going up, and because the cost of delivering that electricity is also going up. And of course, no, we don't even know what the effect would be of the current conflict that's going on. Of course, it's already raising price of oil, so of course it's going to affect our energy prices as well. So if the system of 140 years old is not working anymore, what is the solution? And if you can guess, yeah, all the problems that we have here, again, dirty, unreliable, expensive, outdated, centralized, and benefits only a few giant companies. The end consumers are not protected. So all these problems that we're having with the current way of consuming and producing electricity, solution, of course, it's going solar. That's why we're here, right? So let me explain how it works. So right now you're paying an electric bill. What solar does is that we look at your consumption for the next year, and we say, okay, this is how much electricity you need. Our designers design the solar system on your roof and decide how many panels you would need to cover your consumption. And based on that, we determine the full cost of your solar system and then monthly cost. A lot of our programs don't have any upfront cost at all. So that solar payment either replaces or eliminates your electric bill. So either you don't pay it at all, or it significantly reduces. Again, depends on the utility there. So that's how solar works. That's how we can eliminate your bill. The second one, a lot of people, I would say about 80%, they start saving from day one. So which means that solar payment is lower what they're currently paying on average to their electric company. Currently, there are several incentives going on. Again, here in Texas, we only have the federal incentive, federal tax credit. But in many other states, there are incredible state incentives that eventually are going to go away because everybody is going to go solar. Utilities will be solar, will be on solar. So again, it's very important to take advantage of these incentives while they're here. And actually, this is the last year for the federal tax credit to be 26%. It's going to go down to 22% next year, and for residential customers, it's going to go away in 2024. And of course, we already determined that that's the main thing, most important thing that people can do to combat climate change and reduce pollution. And we also have an option of adding a battery that can protect you during the power outage. And last year I had several customers who already had batteries in their home, and they lasted pretty much through the whole storm. So they had power on the whole time, up to a week actually at that time. So again, that's also an option. They were the people in the neighborhood. So again, if you don't mind people showing up at your home during power outage because you actually have power, that can be a great option for you, again, to add battery. So let me explain very briefly how solar works. Again, there are several components to your solar system. It's of course a solar panel itself that captures the energy of the sun, and that energy goes to an inverter. It converts it from DC power to AC power, and then of course it goes to your home. And if you produce too much during the day, you sell it back to the grid. And again, there is in most cases there is even exchange between the energy that you give back to the grid and you take back at night. Again, we did talk about the federal tax credit. As I said, is 26% of the cost of the system. It's the governmental program. It's pretty much the only time that the government actually pays you money for your home improvement project. So it's pretty cool to have that available still. Again, this is the last year. And as I already said, for my residential customers, I partner with Powur. I'm so excited to be working with them because it is an amazing company. Just a couple of words about the company itself. It is an A+ rated company by Better Business Bureau, and Yelp. We have pretty much all 5-star reviews. We got number 61 among all the private companies. There are thousands of private companies in the United States, and Powur is number 61, the fastest growing company. It's actually number 1 solar company, fastest growing solar company in the country right now. And it's also B certified corporation. I know I asked that a lot of people. This group probably knows more about B certified corporation. It's a set of requirements, ethical, moral, like kind of standards to people, to environment. So pretty much the company has to do good to people and the environment in order to do business. And again, Powur does that. Powur is the only solar company in the United States that does 100% offset of all carbon dioxide emissions. Of course, once you have solar on your roof, there is no emissions at all, but the production of panels, the site survey, the installation, of course, does produce some carbon dioxide, and we offset that through a whole list of programs, whether it's in Amazon rainforest or in African villages. And if you are interested more to learn about what we did last year, what kind of programs we invest in, I can send you a link to Powur's 2021 impact report that lists all the programs that we participated in to offset all the emissions. But for our customers here in the United States, that's the numbers for 2021. So we saved $118 million to our customers, and we prevented more than 8 million pounds of carbon dioxide from entering the air through, again, transition people to renewable energy. And this is the map of our installs that we did. Again, last year we did over 5,000 installs, again, just in 2021. Our most kind of established states are here in Texas, then California, Florida, Northeast is growing up very fast. And again, more and more states are coming up. This is again the map of the current states. So once you have solar on your roof, you do want to make sure that you are protected, and that the equipment that you have in your home is covered. And that's one of the major reasons I partnered up with Powur, because I feel like they provide the best value to the customers. through this warranty. It's a 30-year warranty on all the parts of solar system. So that includes all the panels, all the inverters, the installation racks, the labor is covered, and your roof is also covered. So if anything happens to your roof, let's say 20, 25 years from now, it's still going to be covered. And it's the most comprehensive warranty in the solar industry that I've seen. And the coolest part about that it's actually independent of an installer. It's independent of a manufacturing company. So if anything happens to power during those 30 years, you're still going to be covered. So for every installation that we do, we put money aside to honor your warranty for the next 30 years. Again, I feel like this is one of the best thing for the customer. Of course, not all of us stay in our homes for 30 years. I think average Americans, they stay in home for about 5-7 years. So if you ever decide to sell your home, in a lot of states, solar is considered an asset. And according to Zillow, the value of the home is about 4 to 6% more when you sell it. And over the years, I've had many customers who actually sold their homes. I even had customers whose homes were sold several times in the past 5 years. The only word of caution here, it's so important to find real estate professional who actually knows how solar works. They have to be green certified. Because again, for some of the real estate professionals who are not familiar with solar, it can seem like it's a burden to sell homes with solar. But if they know how it works and what the benefit is, it's actually an asset, and they can sell it faster, and they can sell it with a premium. Again, I have some customers whom I talk to who bought homes with solar. My homes, the one that I did, and I heard that that was one of the reasons why they bought home, because they pretty much don't have electric bill, or they have a very low electric bill. It's all included in their home right now. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a quick video now that you know about solar, about power, a quick video about, again, power, about how we do our work. Let me see if this video works. We tested it and it worked. Yeah, it worked. Okay, it's working. I think it's working.
The sun. Other than faces of loved ones, it's one of the first things we learn to draw. The sun is essential. It gives plants their energy stores. It gives us seasons. It warms our bodies. The sun's energy is all around us and within us. Our fossil fuels come from the sun. 81% of our total energy comes from fossil fuels. Coal alone generates 45% of our electricity. Power and water plants rely on fossil fuels. Our cleanliness, productivity, and comfort depend on them. The world's population quadrupled in the past 150 years. In that same span, we've mined most of our surface resources. The deeper we excavate for fuel, by fracking, drilling, or blasting up mountaintops, we modify the earth in ways never intended. These methods define our current industrial era, an era of extraction. As humanity's population inches towards 8 billion, we need to be visionary about reimagining energy. Climate resilience, the ability to prepare for, recover from, and adapt to climate change, will be essential as we enter the mid-century. Instead of mining the earth for remains of solar energy, we can harvest the sun directly through panels, batteries, and cells. Without needing to process fuels, we release less carbon into the air while maintaining the energy we need for our daily lives. When Powur's founder, Jonathan Budd, was 26, he visited the Amazon. Jonathan was impressed by the indigenous tribespeople who hosted him. The Ashwar had lived for generations in total harmony with their environment. Everything they produced was from the jungle and naturally returned to the jungle. When Jonathan came back home, he decided to dedicate his life to solar and sustainable energy, and Powur was born. Powur has been designated an Inc. 1000 fastest growing company in America, and as a certified B Corporation, is required to meet social sustainability and environmental performance standards. Powur offsets the carbon that it generates, pouring tens of thousands of dollars in profits towards offset initiatives, as well as localized projects such as clean tech stoves in Uganda. For homeowners, Powur shifts the paradigm of dependency. Instead of paying utility companies, Powur lets you become your own utility. With zero down financing, there are no upfront, out-of-pocket costs. Powur makes the transition easy. We analyze whether your roofs can be outfitted for solar. We calculate your energy savings. We take care of the entire installation process. Powur's panels are warranted for 25 years, while our workmanship and inverters are guaranteed from 10 to 30 years. We not only empower homeowners to adopt clean energy, but we've grown an entire community of solar warriors. Powur provides awesome tools and mentors to help you win. The heart of our team are consultants who praise the benefits of solar. We're partnered with industry-leading equipment providers so you can advocate with confidence. Powur isn't just a utility disruptor. We are a movement to liberate the planet from fossil fuel dependency. In February 2021, a severe winter storm shut down Texas for a week. Their power plants weren't properly winterized. Their grid nearly collapsed. Due to supply shortages, natural gas prices shot up 16,000% that week. The usual 10 cents per kilowatt hour suddenly cost $9 per kilowatt hour. That cost surge was passed on to customers. Some Texas utilities made billions that week. Months later, Texas legislators voted to have utility customers fund a billions-dollar utilities bailout. A monthly surcharge would be added to utility bills, possibly for decades. Instead of burdening the utilities largely responsible for this catastrophe, utilities convinced Texas politicians that it was better to burden customers. Thankfully, we don't have to stay locked into a corrupt provider relationship with utility monopolies. An alternate energy reality is already here. It used to be that humans harvested by daylight. Now we harvest actual daylight. The clean energy movement is our future. It's one of the most stable sources of job growth in the coming decades. The sun that ripens crops and keeps our oceans thriving will power our devices, light our roads, and heat our homes. Here at Powur, you take control of your energy. Join us in building a brighter, cleaner energy future for mankind.
Oops. Okay, so yes, so that we're back to the presentation. So again, just to reminder of our partnership. Again, that's our program where for every person who goes solar through Livable Arlington, we donate $1,000 to the community fund that again investing in the local programs by Livable Arlington. So if you're interested to see if your home is a good candidate for solar, if solar can benefit your home and your family, that would be your next steps. Where these are the pieces of information that we would need: your name, your phone number, email, and address. And Jennifer is going to send a Google form for you to fill out. So the process is, once you fill out that form, in the next several days, we'll give you a call. Me and my team will give you a call and set up a time to talk to you and see if your home is a good candidate. There are about 130 homes in the United States, and about 90 of them qualify for solar. So again, some homes are not good candidates, some homes are. Again, that's our first step to see if it's good. And if it is, then we take a copy of your, ask you, give us a copy of your electric bill. And from there, we determine your usage. And again, and invite you to meet with us, whether on the Zoom or in person, and we show you again how much you pay now to your electric company and how much you would be paying to own your solar system, to become owner of your energy production, the same way as you own your home. Because again, you're not renting your home, you have your home, you own your home the same way you can own your energy. And yeah, I think Jennifer sent that Google form, and we discussed that Jennifer is going to send it out in the email as well. So if you don't have a chance now, you can always go back in the email and fill out that form. And then we have a special promotion. So if you decide to, again, meet with us, then we'll give you a $25 gift certificate if you book your consultation in February of this year. So just a special thank you. You don't have to decide to go solar for this gift certificate. So just to see if it's a good decision for you to switch to solar. And in the end, I just want to, well, at first I wanted to tell you the story of Achua people. You heard of them in the video about changing the world, changing the dream of the world, changing the story of the world. But I do want to, I changed my mind last minute today, and I just want to bring it up to what's going on currently. As you all know, what, if I can, if you all know what terrible things are happening in Ukraine right now. Very close to home. One of the main reasons why there is this invasion going on, that we buy the products that he's selling. The extraction economy breeds dictators because they can own mines, they can own wells, they can own uranium. And that's what's been happening in Russia for the past 30 years. This is pretty much the only reason why he is in power. And pretty much why we're having this problem, what we have it right now. Solar, renewable energy is democratic, because there is no one person that can own sunshine, and there is no one person that can own wind. There is no person that can own ocean tides. That's why switching to 100% renewables, not just in the United States, but everywhere else in the world, is not just a means to combat climate change, but it also a way to maintain and promote world peace. Again, we have this stark example right now that without switching to 100% renewables everywhere, we're going to be feeding that money to dictatorships in the world. And again, we don't want to do that. And that gave me another reason why it's so important for all of us to promote clean energy, to do everything possible for all of us to switch to renewables. So that finishes my presentation. Thank you so much. And if you have questions about solar, about power, about how we work, I would be happy to answer those questions.
First off, thank you, Natalia. That was a wonderful presentation. Thanks for sharing your story and all of that information with us, and especially thanks for tying into the current situation. I know it's a lot that's happening globally and also for you personally, but that message about just how important it is to shift away from solar, not just because of shift towards solar, not just because of the exploitation happening here in Texas that are affecting communities like Arlington, others in the Barnett Shell or across the state, and not just because of the impact on global climate, but also because some of these other geopolitical situations that are happening and the exploitation that's happening all around the world connected to this one particular industry and why we need to shift away towards clean energy. We really appreciate you taking the time to present to us today. So are there any questions for Natalia today?
I have a question. I heard that the disposition of the solar panels after it has been used is adding to the pollution. Is that true? And if so, how much?
Oh, you mean after, like after
its use, yes.
Yeah.
After say 25 years, 30 years, those solar panels have to be disposed of. And there is a concern that that is contributing to pollution. Is that true? And if so, how much?
Yeah, I definitely have heard that. And thank you for asking that. Thank you for sharing that. Well, first of all, we are really not at a point where we do have that, just because most solar panels have been installed in the past 5 years, maybe going back to 10 years. 20 years at the most. So we don't really have any solar panels that are being disposed yet right now. But saying that, there are many companies that I actually know that are tackling that problem. Most materials in the solar panel can be recycled. So they are working on recycling most of the materials in the solar panel. And again, I think it mostly might become a problem, let's say 25, 30 years by now. And if we're already starting to tackling that again, recycling most of the parts of that solar panel, I think in the next 25, 30 years, it's definitely going to be resolved. I don't have any doubt. And even if there is some parts that cannot be recycled, the impact of them is so minimal compared to burning fossil fuels to power homes.
That is true. That is true.
But there are companies now that recycle already. Again, it's not much to recycle yet. We're working on that.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Thank you again for asking.
And I will send in my request and see, because I've recently bought a house and I would like solar panels on it. But because there are 56 houses in our unit, I'll have to check with the people if I can do that or not. And if it is feasible, I would definitely like to put in solar panels.
Nice. Is this HOA that you live in, or
it's for senior citizens above age of 55 and over. And there are 56 units that we have, all separate houses. And but it belongs to a condominium, sort of.
Okay. Yeah. There are some specifics about that, so we'll have to see. Yes, sometimes it can be a little harder, but we'll have to see.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just put in the chat a report from North Carolina State that kind of brought together a number of different studies and reports on both the negative and positive impacts of solar, including some of these health and environmental impacts. Then their conclusions say that more or less the environmental impacts, as Natalia said, pretty much outweigh a lot of these, but it's a really good place to kind of dig deeper into a lot of these questions because it's a really important one. We want to make sure we're not shifting to some technology that's going to then like hurt us much more down the road. So
yeah.
Right. And when you think about that, okay, once of course, there is some carbon dioxide that's being produced when we actually produce the solar panels, but it's only one time, right? When we put them on, they're going to be there for 30, 40 years versus having to dig or drill or frack for gas, for coal, for oil, every single day you have to burn more and more and more and more. So it's kind of like that, kind of like a drug dealership where you have to you're just on that thing where you have to have it every single day. And so the damage happens every single day. Here, again, there is an impact at production of solar panels, but then there is nothing for the next 30 to 40 years. And again, hopefully And by that time, there will be technologies to recycle again. They are developing right now.
Thank you, Natalia. Any other questions for Natalia?
I guess that I signed up for this thing and I would like to have a conversation with whoever contacts me to see the feasibility of this thing. I'm most worried about the initial investment because, as you know, the economy is not that easy right now. So that would be the only concern that I'd have at this point, how much of an initial investment it takes to do that switch.
Yeah, Alejandro. Actually, yeah, we can look at different programs, but in most cases, there is no any initial investment. So the way it works is that your solar payment replaces most of your electric bill. And solar payment only starts like a couple of months, well, 30 to 45 days after the installation. I mean, of course, you can pay investment if you want to, but most cases you don't need to. It's zero down program, and we can look at different options.
Great, thanks. So I signed up. Let's see what happens. Thank you very much.
Definitely, thank you. Thank you for sharing this report. I would like to read it myself. Thank you for sharing, Kevin.
No problem. It's a little more focused on safety impacts. I do have some other ones on environmental that I can share with people, but yeah.
I have to leave, but I appreciate this. You guys have a good one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for attending.
So yeah, I guess we're at the hour and I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So if are there any last questions before we wrap up? Cool, great. Well, Jennifer shared the link in the chat for the sign up form. So feel free to use that sign up form. We'll send an email to all the participants as well afterwards with a link to it, as well as how to get in touch with Natalia. And yeah, thank you everyone so much. Thank you, Natalia, for the presentation and sharing so much. Thank you, Jennifer and Ranjana, for helping run this. And thank you all for attending. This was a really great session. Yeah, everyone have a great rest of your Saturday. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, and we'll be in touch. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And